The Lekker Rugby Pod Instant Reaction with Harry Jones, only on Megaphone Rugby.
Welcome to this instant reaction on the Lekker Rugby Pod. As usual, Harry and I aren't at our posts after a bit of a struggle. You know, like Harry says, you know, you can be as advanced as you possibly want to be, but if technology doesn't want to work with you, you have to restart, which you've done. But Harry, before we get into that, I want to talk to you about my special Canterbury special. Commemorative almost, not necessarily strictly accurate historically, but, you know, in honor of the 30-year anniversary of the World Cup. What do you think of that?
Oh, it's lovely. It makes you feel warm inside. And it's the advent of the test season, kind of, quasi-test, demi-test. And here we are again with great memories. Just one of those days where you're happy that rugby was invented by somebody, you know, many years ago. And also, it's interesting with the new kit, merchandise, hoodies, this and that. It's never the same. There's always a little difference. And us aficionados, and I know you're a big car guy, if you're good enough, you can look at a thing and say, that's 95. No, that's 97.
No, you're right. But I mean, this explosion in the mattress factory that they use as a warm-up kit at the moment, I mean, you'll never mistake that for anything other than a 2025 model. I'm sure that's not going to have a long life.
Man, I ordered one. It's to me, it's great. It's pajamas. It's sexy time. Let's go. Listen, you know, it's new generations. You have people that like that kind of vibe. One thing is for sure, you just got to keep moving. More merch, more stuff. It's flying off the shelves. I know there's a guy we follows a download, and he was complaining about the shipping costs. But then you look at what he was buying. He was buying everything. Let's go.
You know, you and I have an ongoing quest, the brotherhood of the traveling Blue Bulls rugby jersey. So it's taken 3 months. It's in London now. Now it's going to take another 3 months to get to him in Warwickshire, but it's getting there. Took a lot of planning, a lot of logistics. So that's what we aficionados, as you call it, but that's what we do. But enough about that. Let's talk about the game. I mean, so we expected a wet game. It wasn't as wet as I expected. It was a bit of, you know, rain towards the end, I suppose, and got a bit, you know, little rough around the edges, let's call it that, towards in. But the game as a whole, do you think that the Boks got what they wanted from that game?
I think it was actually very rainy. My friend Porkchop told me, he was sitting pretty down low. It was a deluge. No, in the stadium, my friend Porkchop and many of my other friends were saying it was a deluge. Sometimes the week just goes where you never see the sun, and the accumulation of it underneath everything in Cape Town. That's the thing, you know, because you're basically all rushing to the sea, or you're rushing to the flats. It would have been really heavy. There was a New Zealand fly-off out there, and he could not find the ball. It just was skipping him. It took an hour for a Baba, Joe Marchant, an English Kiwi guy, to claim a 50-50 ball in the air. And Fassi seemed like he was okay, you know, coming from the sauna of the Sharks. He was okay with the wet, you know, and it's interesting for Bok coaches. They like to have a look and see. Tony Brown would have liked to see who can handle wet weather rugby, who understands it, who modifies the shape of their kicks, who can, you know, put them in space. And I thought both fly-offs did really well. I thought Sash had the worst weather, and also that's also the, which is the first 40. Most of the time, the Barbars, if they're gonna spring a surprise, they come out like gangbusters and they put something on you. This was a game where they had nothing until about an hour in. Like I said, they finally got a 50-50 ball in the air. They finally started, you know, doing it. And then Chef Kolbe decided to turn Ricky Riccatelli into Pasta Boy. And Kurtley Arendse was burning holes in his uniform with the unbearable lightness of his being and his lekkerbekkenness. Vincent Chichuka was all over the place. And it just made you wonder about recruitment there as well. A guy that comes from the DRC, super athlete, and, you know, just how many other people are out there that could come into it. But no, listen, you know, it's hard to grade anyone hard, difficult on a day when it's come 54-7. You're always going to be okay with it, I suppose. If I was a coach, I'd be burning them for that 7 and saying that should never have happened. So, yeah, what did you think about the game? Did you have any nerves? Was it just sort of a good jolt?
No, what I thought of the game was, you know, when I watch these games, it's quite a hectic thing for me because I do the rugby commentary, so I'm the technical guy. I have to make sure we now broadcast to about 7 or 8 platforms, Facebooks and YouTubes and radio stations and stuff. So I have to listen to the game and to the commentary in this one ear, and then I have to listen to SuperSport, and I have to talk to you guys on WhatsApp, so I look like I don't know what I'm talking about, you know, and everything else. And I had the supper in between as well. The one thing I did notice, and you mentioned in passing there, I actually, raised the point, and I was quite proud of myself. Andre Esterhuizen playing flank, and not just once off, not just one, for the one, he did it repeatedly. Open side most of the time, I actually saw him go down to blind side once. He and Tutuka swapped around. I wonder what the thinking behind that was.
No, it was stealth. So it was a 6-2 by disguise. And this is interesting. Rassie's been talking about doing this. The French have done it as well, where you name a team sheet, so you think you're dealing with a certain thing, and then actually it's the other things. You think maybe it's a 7-1 or it's a 5-3, it could be a 6-2. And this has to do with Andre's size and his ability to handle a ruck, a breakdown. He's exactly. If you've ever been around Andre, and I have before, he literally shaped like a blindsider. Like you would look at him and just say, that's definitely not a back.
Yeah, that was quite interesting. And he did well. I mean, sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah. There's no problem putting him there. So it's not like when you say sometimes, I think I'll put Kwacha in the backs. I mean, when you put Andre in the forwards, he looks entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the other way around from the 7-1 that we used to, a forward that can go play back. You've got a back that can now play forward.
That's it.
Yeah,
it's Rassie up to tricks again. Yeah.
I like
and
that.
it belonged in a wet and wild day like that. Before we lose sight of the very beginning, what a heart-rending, breaking, touching scene. Cornell Hendricks' family on the field. Peter Amahani coming with a Barbarians number 14 jersey, which was class. Nitling Fouché bawling, about his own stuff, but maybe also Cornell. It just felt right. It felt really good. And yes, the weather was shit, but in the end, it's the kind of weather that you need to learn to play with. There was some mauls, there was a big scrums. I think there were 6 scrums in the first half that really went to fruition. There were 3 big ones, 3 really big ones. So Asanati would have felt good about that. Going up against, a proper, clever scrummager in Kian Healy. And then I think 1 was iffy and the 2 were okay. On the line-out sides, Lood calling the line-outs was probably, during the match that was a proper part of the match, I think, kind of got away with in the second half as it should in a Baba game. But when it was proper, Lood was calling really well, using Vincent and his length and his wingspan at the back, going all the way to the back sometimes, which is really nice in a wet day. It's hard to pull off to go to the back in the lineouts. The Barbars did a couple of times and it went astray. I think Sasha picked up a lineout. He would have had a lineout stat. Sasha would have caught a lineout ball by claiming the 50-50. So that was good, scrums and lineouts. The maul was sort of 50-50 and never really got going in my mind. There were some peel-offs. Morna had to interpret on that kind of day as well. It's difficult. And then I think the breakdown was probably an area where the Boks will not be totally happy. And there was good barge, but there wasn't a lot of good pilfer. There wasn't a good slowdown. It's just that, the Barbars never really got their hands on the ball very much, so it didn't matter. One thing I would say is the carries of Lood de Jager, very underrated. Andre Pretorius did a great job on our clips session, our series, showing what kind of carrier he is, how he uses and leverages his bulk and his length. And he's always going forward. Jean-Luc Dupree, before he was hurt, was really good too, over the gain line. And then once again, we have to mention Vincent. The back line was a bit scrambly at times, but when they did have front foot ball, they really went for it. Sasha Fassi was a game breaker. When Sasha whipped that across the face pass, where you literally get to the line and you fizz it across the face and you cut out someone, and Fassi would get that and put it on the toe, on the left side and the right side. Try. That's good wet weather ball. I mean, no matter what you say about it, and if it doesn't look like it's razzmatazz, that is the way to play at Eden Park. That's the way to play in Dublin.
Eden Park is like a red letter day. I asked Lood, is that the game that you've circled in red? No, so all important. Of course, it's been circled in red, man. We're not stupid. We're not fools. Looking forward to that one. So a couple of things caught my eye. You talked about Neetling. He didn't do that well in the scrums. A couple of times he was seriously on the back foot, popped out a couple of times. You talked about him being emotional. Maybe the occasion was a bit too big, because obviously, always say your first test, I'm saying test, goes by in a flash. Maybe next time it'll be a bit better. And then I was a little bit worried to see Kwacha at 8 again. With Irish, it didn't work. That experiment didn't work. Why are they putting him at 8 again?
Yeah, because they, in the second half especially, they're thinking there's not that many scrums that need to go all the way to decision. So Kwagga at eight's not really, a real eight. It also was brought upon by Dupree's injury, so I don't know when they were really slotting him in, and that's interesting too because they might have had a different plan, and they might have shifted Vincent, for example, to eight in that other plan. Marku wasn't getting that much purchase on the ground, on the deck. He was the one shifted into starting lineup. And so maybe Kwagga was sort of to come in and try to play more over the ball, to the ball. But really in the first half, it was about aerials. I mean, Fassi claimed 3 from the sky. Kolbe had 1. Kurtley Arendse, who again, burned through his abdominal part of his uniform with the sheer pace and light and beauty of his being. Lekkerbacks are very strange because now we see across the whole world, other wings are trying to do the same thing. Look at the Lions against the Western Force. You had 2 like Mac Hansen and Mac Greeley, both putting scrum caps on and both trying to be very lekker. Guys, this is something that is owned. It is patented. It is intellectual property of the Springboks. Only Springboks can be swivel-hipped enough, unnecessarily scrum-capped enough, and have supernatural powers that they can actually burn through their own jersey and score with a mouthful of blood.
I wanted to ask you that. Did Kurtley flex his abs, or did somebody tear it on his behalf?
No, it was his spirit. It was his soul. His soul was too pure for this. The sponsors and Pick and Pay and all this stuff. It's just, no, I'm just going to show my abs. I thought 9 and 10 obviously was, where you want to look at on the first half. That's where Tony Brown and those guys would have drilled down in. Sasha, I thought sort of 8 out of 10. His line kicking was superb. We take it for granted, but someone who can peg the ball 5 meters from the try line when you're 30, 40 meters out, but routinely, is gold. The difference between being 5 meters out and 12 meters out in the red zone is everything. His 360 dummy almost came off where he took Peter Amani out of his shoes and took his soul. It actually looked like took his soul out and said, "Hey, Pete, there it is." Would have been so nice if he had held on to it. But the ball was a bar of wet soap. And so his dummy ended up like a discus throw. And then he had one out of the full. But he had a breakdown steal. I mean, my God, the guy got over a ball at the ruck and he took 50-50. So he's
in addition to his line out.
Yes, this guy's everywhere. Morne, I thought, was clever and quick. He had a very difficult ruck ball to work with. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at it, but he was hit a lot and the ruck was pushed back a lot. Some really hard work by Dave Ribbans and Ruben van Heerden, 2 South African locks, were really grafting, pushing and picking their time. So even though 19-0, maybe you're disappointed a little bit, I thought it was actually decent returns going into oranges, and it felt about right. I thought, that's probably what it looked like. There were a couple, maybe there was 1 try on offer, and it should have been 27, but 19-0, it felt about right.
Talked about Ruben van Heerden, looks very much like John Kleyn. Didn't get a chance in the Springbok side, so you've been watching him, and he was our dark horse as well when we talked about it, Andre Pretorius and you in our series about the Ultimate Springboks. Do you think he deserves a call up? Did he play well enough today, or is John Kleyn played a year? It's been a year since he last played, or close to a year. Johan, our friend, says. What did you think of those two?
I thought the second half is where Ruben had a very good first 40, but the second half is where I think he really asserted himself. In the first half, he had some chicken wings. He had some good handling. He attended a lot of rucks. He did a lot of tackles like he always does. But in the second half, he was killing mauls. He and Dave Ribbans were teaming up. But Ribbans was getting pinged, and Ruben wasn't. I thought that Ruben actually made Jean a little bit invisible at times. And my argument here is this. Nothing wrong with Jean Kleyn. He's amazing. We're talking about the 5th or 6th lock. So it's Salman and Jean, basically, because I think Lood jumps in. Archie is a money player. Mostert is a forever man, and Eben is, the best lock that ever played for South Africa. So you've got these 5, 6 guys. You're looking at who's the one you bring in. Jean Kleyn plays in Ireland. It's harder to bring a guy in from Ireland sometimes than it is from Japan or from other places, and he's 4 years older than the Ruben. That's my selling point. Because that means to be 31 and then get to the next World Cup, you're 34, 35, it starts to become one of those ages where you start to get dinged. I also think Ruben van Heerden, with his 97% tackle completion rate, his busyness around the field, the fact that at 80 minutes he didn't look tired at all. He wasn't, hunched over. I thought that he made a case for himself. And there were 2 maul kills. I'll go back and look and see if it was him or someone else. But I think he got 2 mauls to come down when the Boks were in the 5-meter channel in the red zone, and it could have been, really ugly. It could have got to the 80 points, and he just kind of stemmed the tide. You learn a lot from a player who's losing on a losing team, and he still plays well. And I think, also he's played on the Stormers when it hasn't gone right, and he's never dipped his production. So, yeah, look, I mean, I think that little subplot between Ruben, Dave, Jean, and the return of Lood, who was clearly the best lock on the field, by the way. That was cool.
Close to the best player on the field, if you ask me. Talked about that. I'll get you to the man of the match, your man of the match just now. I wanted to ask you, Jesse Kriel as captain, first game as captain. It looked funny getting him running, seeing him running out at the head of the team there. I thought it was a good game for him. He actually played well, had a couple of nice breaks, and we saw that form that Andre was talking about. Again, Andre shows all these Japanese clips, and actually, I'm going to put the link up here. Go watch that playlist. If you want to look at a specific player, we analysed them all the proper candidates. Jesse, I think, had a good game. I'm not so sure about the captain side of it because there wasn't much call for it, but impressive.
Yeah, Jesse doesn't really have a lot of bad games. He's one of those players that he's always going to give you. His range is from 7 out of 10 to 9 out of 10. He doesn't get a lot of 10 out of 10s. I mean, no one does, but he's right there in the pocket of 8 all the time. You never see him have a poor game anymore. He knows too much. He's too serious about his game. Mm-hmm. He's too professional for him to just drop things and not work it. I don't like a captain being in that far away from the ruck. I just don't think you have enough ability to stand with the referee and read the game together as if you're reading a story together. I think that's why I like my hookers. I like my loose forwards because they're full of shit, and so they try to talk to the ref about something that they know is not really true. I think a back runs in. What's he going to say? No. It is just,
Well, when it arrives 5 minutes after the things happen, because it's so far away.
There's no credibility. I don't like that, but it's not really how rugby works anyway. There were other people on the field that would have been easily turned to, like a guy like Lewitt or Malcolm. I mean, the ref's going to chat with whoever he wants to, but I wouldn't think that's a long-term solution. I did like the way the tries were developed a lot of times. For example, even in the first half, even though they ended in a maul, it was from really big carries by Lewitt, 2 carries in a row, and then Fassi finding a seam. Another one, Fassi finding a seam for Kolbe. Another one, Vincent, really working hard and well with backs. So the linkage between the two. And then the second half, it even got better because you had moments where, let's see, it was Mani to Kolbe, to Damien, to Fassi, to Kurtley Arnsel. Almost like the entire backline was igniting, and you saw a little bit of the sort of Tony Brown dream that, I really, it's against a beaten Barbarian team, but there was the moments where you thought, yeah, this could really turn into an all-court game where you have channels going everywhere and you have so much speed in the forwards and so much beef in the backs that there's really nowhere that you can mismatch. So that's pleasing and promising. When it goes up to 31, Marnie starts making every conversion, from a touchline. And so it starts, going really quickly, 33, 38, 40. It did feel like the Boks struggled to keep shape. And then once they found enough shape to execute, I did like those tries. It's a struggle. If you're going to say pick a man of the match, I'm really going to have a hard time today. It's probably going to have to be a forward and a back.
Just briefly, for the ears in the room like me, explain to me what you mean by shape. Because obviously I talk about the shape, lustily, nodding along like I know what I'm talking about. What does shape mean?
So you can play rugby where it's happening to you. You can live your life like your life is happening to you, or you can be the author of your life. You can set out. There's always wrinkles. It doesn't go exactly how you plan, but you can say, I'm going to play between these, trams, the tram in the middle of the field on the right side. I'm going to declare a quadrant. That's mine. If anyone comes in there, you die. If I come over here, I live. You just decide. So that's a very Heineken Meyer type rugby where you really have scripted, where you even say, when we have a ruck in the middle of the field, there's going to be ruck 1, ruck 2, ruck 3, ruck 4, and you know exactly what 1, 2, 3, 4 is. You know it before you even go to the first ruck. That shape, and especially in the rain, especially when you're up by a lot of points, it could be tempting to just say, I know how we'll score a lot of points. Let's just start chucking the ball around and go crazy. That's actually how you score less points. You can score more points if you keep to your structures, and then the situations will always, open up for you. Like these fussy tries of kick through. Those were structure. Then suddenly there was 3-on-2, 4-on-1 breaks, and it prevents. So there was this period of time, let's see, between when it was 26-0, and there was just scrums and lineouts galore in the red zone, and they got stuck because everyone was trying to do, you know how it is when you go to like an age group when you get picked for provincial honors and you arrive, everyone's good. And so the first time you play a game, everyone wants to be the star because you're not really sure if you are that good, because when you were at school, you were the best. Now you're in a situation where you have a young player come in and they see, wow, there's so much space and time, and I'm in the Bok jersey, and what if we're beating these guys? What if I can just run through everyone? But you can really hardly ever run through even a Barbarians team. There's got to be a steamroller. There's got to be a momentum shift. There's got to be a boom, 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 and that kind of cadence of rucks. And that's what allows you to steam over. And so I liked it that they found that again, that Vincent's second try in particular. They found the idea. It took, they just kind of marched in, and then they built. They built nice, clean, good cleans. By the way, Neethling was really good on those cleans. He was struggling in the scrums. I think he's just got a body that's difficult when he's up against a shorter prop or a more compacted prop, because he's very long-limbed for a prop at test level.
We talked about that before.
Yeah. So, but I think once the Springboks found that shape, and it suddenly went, 40, 47, then you realized, this is a team that if it sticks to what it's trying to do, which is, it's okay to be a kick chase team. Listen, kick chase is wonderful when you do it well. A lot of fans boo it, but it is the best way you'll ever get the quickest ball in the world, and scoring off the scraps is such a great way to win a match anyway. So look, I actually thought if push comes to shove, gun to my head, I think Kolbe was just too amazing for too many times in a row to look past him. But I think in the forward pack, I'd say Lood. I'd say Lood and Chesy take it. The biggest guy in the field and maybe the shortest guy in the field are the most influential, because I think there were moments in the first half where Lood was the guy who made the shape right, and he was imperious. And then I think there was the final 30 minutes where Kolbe just did Kolbe things, and it was just silly. People were kind of falling on the ground, on the face, on the ground, like you're watching a cartoon.
One last thing. I have an ongoing debate with our friend Sean Larkin down in Australia, and he's been pointing out that our handling skills in general seem to be suffering a bit compared to especially overseas team. Today you mentioned that the ball was a bar of soap. I thought we did quite well. A couple of times the ball was actually collected and caught, even though it was thrown ahead of the player or above his head or behind him, whatever. The ball somehow seemed to stick, except for Sasha's 360, whatever you want, subterfuge that he committed there. I don't know what the right word is. But the point is, I think in general, clearly there's some attention being paid to the basics, or am I now seeing things that I want to see because I want them to handling to be better?
I talked to a handling guy once, and because this is one interesting point about rugby, is how long it takes to turn something around. And he confirmed something that I wondered about. I think it takes a longer time than people think to be handsy, to be a really good hands team. And I think our friend Sean is correct. It was correct, but I don't think it's correct anymore, because I think Tony's had enough time with them, and I think there's been shape working with Stick and with Felix, where people are more comfortable now in general play with chaos. And I think it's obsolete now to say that the Springboks are not comfortable in that. I don't know if there's too many people more comfortable in chaos than Sasha, for example. I don't know, Fassi, Damian Willemse, Cheslin Kolbe. These guys are totally fine as long as they have the proper battalion up front that create the good ball and can get that linking going. I would back them against the Kiwi guys now any day of the week. I don't think that I don't think that old adage is still true. Even with the French, who are probably, French and Argentines are really good with that. I still think you can put a Bok team on the field right now that is exceptionally good at not knocking on, at putting the ball right in front of someone at speed. I thought you saw a lot of that from Sasha, by the way. There's not a better passer of the ball than Manie Libbok. I mean, he can spin that ball, he can float it, he can knuckleball it, he can give you a kookaburra. It doesn't matter. Just, there's a lot of skill there. And Tony Brown said before he arrived, I've got an appetite to work with these guys. I mean, the way he talked about these guys, a guy like David Willemse, he's like, we haven't even seen the limits of what a guy like Willemse could do. Just give him to me for a couple of years. But the point is, it takes 2 seasons, maybe even 3, to really bed in that concept. Whereas you can fix a defensive rush system in a season and a half. You can work on your set pieces within 1 season, but there are other things that take longer because, you have to have people comfortable with failure. And, culturally, historically, South African teams have struggled with being the guy who messes up. And, no, it's the worst thing to make a mistake, even though you're going to have to make some mistakes to get better, and you have to make some mistakes to do the highlights. And that holds true in business, that holds true in life, that holds true in rugby. So I think there's a little bit of change there, and maybe Rassie would be like the poster child for a guy who doesn't mind making some mistakes. He's well publicized mistakes, but now who's got the trophy? So I think he's trying to tell his players, don't sweat so much the mistakes of passion. I can live with those. It's okay for you to come in hot like that. I just don't want anyone sitting around trying not to make a mistake.
Next week, I'm giving you a heads up warning. I'm going to give you a week's advance notice. Next week, I'm going to ask you, what did the addition of Felix Jones, what difference did it make? I'm not going to do it now because we're running out of time. This is supposed to be an instant reaction after all, not a long-winded one. So I have to get editing now. But the point is, I want to know what you think the difference that Felix Jones made. Because to me, from what I gathered, those press conferences sound like a bit of a jack of all trades. Helps out here, helps out there. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'd like to see, maybe if you have an idea now, you're free to share it. But I definitely want to see a couple more games before then. But what did you think?
My working theory about Felix is drawn from players themselves. And what I'm hearing is that he's good at going to individual players. Tony, Rassie, Jerry said big picture, but then someone has to actually work with you when you understand something differently. Maybe you're Vincent Chichuka and you've never really been in this camp before. And maybe you need someone to say 5 different ways. Maybe use a different analogy, just whatever, tell a different story. Or notice that someone is playing maybe a little too passive and say, I need to fire you up. That's okay at the level you came from, but no, now you're going to have to step it up a little bit more. I think that's where he lives. And then I think later in the season, he'll be more ingrained in the tactical framework. But what I understand is no one can fire you up better than Felix.
Okay.
He is a fire starter.
Okay, I can talk to you another hour about Ruben van Heerden. I wanted to talk about, but there's no more time. So let's get cracking. Thanks, Harry. Appreciate it, man. Sorry for all the troubles with the internet, but yeah, I'm going to go get editing now. Thanks.
Cheers.